How many people to groups? I don't actually care as long as it's reasonable. You can be a group of one. In the past, we've done really anything more than 5 gets a bit unreasonable, but um, I'm not too picky. Right now, the way Brightspace sees it is there's 64 of you in this class, and it's basically 64 groups of 1. And if you tell me you want to be in a group, I just rearrange them. So whatever you think's best. But every time you add a new person to your group, my expectations go higher accordingly. And further to the question about participation marks, Zoom does keep a record of who comes, and Brightspace does keep a record of who watches, but participation marks happen a lot differently than just showing up, because it's kind of hard to do that this time of millennium, essentially, with the pandemic. So usually how I take stock of most participation marks is I come up with an activity to do at some point in the class and just get you to do it. If ever at the end of the semester you come up short and you've been to every class and your mark doesn't reflect it, then you can come to me and say, hey, I think I deserve more here. I came to all of them, and that's something that I would take seriously. How many do we have now? We're 25. Anyone else have any questions before we get started? Will we be able to do well without textbooks? I have had some courses in the past where it said mandatory, but we were able to go ahead with it. When I say required textbooks, I say required textbooks. In the past, students have found ways to get the information they need without using the textbooks. The textbooks are just a resource I'll point to, but oftentimes I might include a scan or a summary or something like that. For at least one of the labs, I say that one of the textbooks has like a sample way of doing something that you can do and use it as a guideline. But I can't think of a situation where you might be punished by the system for not having it. It's more of just a strongly recommended but not required. Okay, any other questions before I get started? No? Okay. All right, so welcome to lecture 2. A couple quick things. I think I've taught at least half of you before, but one thing I'll recommend for those of you who it's your first time working with me is I like to use the announcements feature on Brightspace. I might almost use it too much. So if you don't have announcements enabled to be notifications on Brightspace, I strongly recommend you do that, because I have answered several questions on Brightspace that I've gotten over email. Typically speaking, if a student sends me a question that I think at least one other student will have, rather than responding to the email, I make a generalized response. So we've had some questions about participation marks. You don't need to prove that you've attended or watched the lecture, as I was saying before we got started. It's only if at the end of the term you've completed all the activities, you've come up short. That's a way to prove to me that you could get your grade bumped up or that kind of thing. For the most part, what I do is I put out activities during the lectures and during, well, not during labs anymore, but normally during any time that we're together, I put out activities. And they take less than 10 minutes, you take care of them. And then at the end of the term, I drop as many as required to make sure the top 20% of you get 100% in participation. Again, I was going to say this one more time, we aren't using the lab time this semester. When the registrar made the academic timetable for this year, they anticipated that we would be in person, so they made lab time. And given how hard it is for us to get together and how it's a lot taxing on the brain to sit and watch a Zoom lecture, and I suspect a lot of you will be watching them delayed anyway, it's not worth our time to try to get together for that lab time. So you can consider that lab time to be a free time. I am always free at that time because I planned before we knew it was going to be online to be there. So if ever you want office hours or that kind of thing, that's a time I can always hop on to talk to you. Can we form groups now? As a rule, I don't form groups until after the ad drop date because it creates more work for everyone, and then groups have to adapt to losing people and gaining people. If you know you want to work alone, or if you know you have a group, fantastic. Keep on keeping on, and then let me know on the 18th when I ask. And finally, how do we earn marks for the labs? There are no quizzes or anything like that. I give a very clear rubric that the faculty is trying to move towards, where I state my expectations for 80% in a clear way that you can see how your submission might be approaching expectations or how it could exceed. And finally, some people were asking if I could put the Zoom link in an easier place. Can everyone see my screen right now? Can I just get one person in the chat to confirm they can see it?
I can see it.
Sweet, thank you. If you are looking for the Zoom link, for whatever reason, Zoom won't, or Brightspace won't let me put the link directly on the home page with the links tool. So if ever you're looking for the link, it is right here on this page, and it will always be there this term. Cool. So today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. On, what was our last class? Tuesday? On Tuesday, I talked to you guys with a lot of theory about how information is transferred from a client to a server over the application layer HTTP protocol. And I imagine that is a lot to digest, because it frankly is. So today we're going to start looking at beginner penetration testing techniques that really show these concepts in practice, so you can start getting an idea of what we're doing. So this is a website that I used last semester. It's called hackthisite.org. And most people who've been through penetration testing or are trained in have done the missions on this site at some point. This semester we're using Defend the Web. The main reason is there's some missions on Hack This Site that are really good theory from a computer science perspective, but they use a lot of like terminology or ideas that I think would be appropriate in a different university classroom, but they aren't really geared with my learning objectives, so I try to avoid them. So I'm going to show you some examples using the ones that are a bit cleaner here, and later in the term you'll get to do some more hands-on penetration testing with the labs. But what we're going to do today is we're going to do about 10 missions trying to get into a site or breaking a password, and I'm going to get your guys' help, and we'll see if we can crowdsource the solution, and we'll see if you can start getting the nuts and bolts of how this works. So this is, oops, oh, it's going to make me, this is my passwords better still be in my clipboard. Oh dear. Okay, give me a sec. A note on usable security: when you make someone forget their password, make them change it right away. 'Cause what happened was they gave me a generic password and didn't make me change it. Okay, so for our first mission, we have to get this password. This is the easiest mission of all of them. Can I zoom in a bit on the site? Yes, I can. How's that? Cool. So we're going to try to get this password. Can I get some suggestions about what this one is? Actually, it's super easy. The password is just hidden somewhere in the site. Does anyone have any? Okay, so someone's saying inspect HTML elements. Let's do that. So what do we have right here? The password is in a comment. Let's see if that works. Cool. So we got the first one. Thanks to you, Jared, for saying inspect HTML element. All right, password number 2. What are we thinking now? So we'll try inspecting HTML element again. Does anyone have any ideas where we could look? Do you want me to type in? Let's try the form link. Patrick Keynes is just saying there might be an if statement. One of you said try entering no password. Search for a password. Okay. So for this one, all you have to do is type submit. Because the first thing you ever want to do when you're testing something is see what the whenever you're penetration testing something, the first thing you want to do is figure out what the rejection case looks like, so you can train your search to know if it's succeeded or if it's failed. Because if you get anything back other than what the rejection looks like, then you know you're getting somewhere. Okay, so they're going to start getting a bit more complicated. All right. Sounds good, Jared. Okay, so for this one now, we need to, this one's much more complicated. So this time, Network Security Sam remembered to upload the password file, but there were deeper problems than that. So what do you think we can do to get this file? Anyone have any ideas? So I'll go with Jared's expect element again. Is there anything I can look for that might tell me? Yes, let's look for a get request. So let's see, we can do the net. We can look over here for gets. We can see what it's requesting. Capture the traffic again when you submit the error. Aha. James might be onto something. So what's something I can do? So James has pointed out there's a password PHP file. What can I do with that? So if it's saying form action method post and the value is password PHP, what does that tell me I can find? Okay, so where would I enter that URL? Would I enter it like as a website, or would I enter it? So we'll try it at the end of here, see if it's in the same directory. And now we've got password here. Cool. We're getting before now. Okay. So this time Sam's hard-coded the password into a script. However, the password is long. Can I do it again? Yes, I can. Okay. So what I'm going to do is inspect the element. And as you guys know, since you've taken server-side scripting before, one of the things you can program into HTML is a form action. And what that does is when the form has been submitted, the page reloads at least partially, reloads at least partially to render the new data. So in this case, when the form is completed, it's saying run the PHP script at index.php, and there is an input type which is reading a file from something called password.php. And what we know about domain names and file hierarchy is because there's nothing else here, there's no slashes, anything else.
John.
We know, sorry? We know that's going to be in a root directory. Not the root directory, it's going to be in the local directory. So what I do is I take this password, PHP, and I put it here, knowing it's in the same directory as the file I'm currently working with. And remember, when we're working with index.php, that's the default for blank. So we know that index.php and password.php must be in the same directory. So I go here, and for whatever reason, one of my Firefox add-ins is slightly blocking the way, but there is a password. So I click to highlight it, copy paste. Oops. I go back, paste it in, submit. There we go. Does everyone understand how I did that? Cool. All right, let's look at number 4 now. So what I really want you guys to understand here is we're starting to think about how websites can share data and how we share data securely. So it's a lot more vulnerable than we think when we know what we're looking for. To the layperson, the web page just renders the way it renders, but what I want you to start thinking about is that the browser has downloaded this HTML data or JavaScript data or what have you and is rendering it. And we have the power to change that rendering, and you don't want to put security and passwords in something that we can render, right? We want that stuff to be held on the server side where it's in the control of the sysadmins. Okay, number 4. This time, Sam hard-coded the password into the script. However, the password is long and complex, and Sam is often forgetful. So he wrote a script that would email his password to him automatically in case he forgot. Here is the script. So we're going to send the password to Sam, and the password has been sent. So Sam has just received the email. Do we need now? We can't access Sam's email, but what can we do maybe to see if we can capture the email or if we can do something? Does anyone have any ideas? Thomas is saying change the send address. Yes. Now, how can we do that? So let's take a look at the source code. By the way, if anyone wants to follow along with this, you can go to hackthisite.org and make an account. It's totally up to you. If you guys want, we can make that the participation for the day, but it's up to you guys. So inspect the password button. So let's do that. Oh, look at this. We can see what email address he's sending because that's been rendered client side, which is very bad. So we're going to change that to an email that is not on client side, and we're going to send the password again. So here we go, password reminder successfully sent to pat.crysdale@dal.ca. And what do you know about this? I have captured the password. And now we can go. Does everyone understand that one? Cool. Okay. Number 5. Sam has gotten wise to all the people who wrote their own forms to get the password. Rather than actually learn the password, he decided to make his email program a little more secure. So what things could Sam have done to make his email more secure? So he could have hidden the email. So let's take a look. Let's see if the same, So one of the first things you want to do when you are inspecting the security of anything is when someone claims that they fixed something, I don't always recommend that you believe them. Same thing, right? So if someone says something worked, that doesn't mean that it actually works. Typically speaking, you always want to do your own test, just like with money, you always want to do your own count. All right. All right, so I'm going to let you guys try to crack this one. This one is cracked with a very common password. See, that was a very common password scheme. Does anyone want to see if they can crack it? You're way ahead of yourself, Jared. Think ancient Rome. Yes. So this one's cracked with a Caesar cipher. Shifted decoder. Is I'm gonna do it. Might be a specialist here. Maybe too complicated. Plain ciphertext. It is encoded with a Caesar cipher, but the problem is not every Caesar cipher decoder has been programmed to handle special characters. So what happens with those special characters is they get treated as ASCII, which is nothing more than binary representations of numbers, so 0 to 255. So okay, yes, just trolling the chat. So what's happened is those numbers get shifted over by 1, but the numbers that we use, like A, B, C, and D, those all start at ASCII 64. So not every Caesar cipher decoder is programmed to shift it. So we look at the encrypted decrypted form, and let me see our password. Okay. Okay, this time Network Security Sam has saved the unencrypted level 7 password in an obscurely named file in the same directory. In other unrelated news, Sam has set a script that returns the output of the Unix cal command. Here is the script. Enter the year you wish to view and hit view. So Sam has given us a calendar. Is everyone familiar with the Unix calendar program? So what happens is you type in cal, and it'll give you the output of whatever. It'll give you the output of whatever year. So if I type into cal 2020, it gives me the calendar for that year. Now, the interesting thing about Linux is you can run multiple commands simultaneously. So I can ask for cal 2020, but I can also ask for all the files in a directory, and it'll give me both of the things at the same time. So I am going to type in that I want the calendar for 2020, but I also want all the files in that directory. And it looks like there's an obscurely named PHP file that's just hanging out, ready for the taken. So let's grab that. Here's our password. Simple enough. Is this one the one I was going to skip? Okay, number 8. Sam remains confident that an obscured password file is the very best idea, but he screwed up with the calendar program. Sam has saved the unencrypted password file in var www.hackthisite.org HTML mission basic 8. However, Sam's young daughter Stephanie has just learned to program in PHP. She's talented for her age, but she knows nothing about security. She recently learned about saving files and wrote a program to demonstrate her ability. Damn, this is getting lower level. What do you mean, Jared? Okay, so we can make password files. So what I can do is I can create a file. So this is what's, yeah, it gets tough in a hurry. So now what Sam's younger daughter Stephanie has done is she has created a file where we can type in our own name. And what, so I've typed in Pat and said that my name has 3 letters. So we can type in other people's names, try Jared. Jared's been saved. We can download the file. Hi, Jared, your name contains 5 characters. I'm assuming you knew that already, Jared. So we can start thinking about what things to do. But with PHP, we have something called server-side include. So I've already got the command written out. And we can type in, rather than giving the name, we can give a command to PHP and it'll render the request to look at what's in the directory. So now I've asked it, what are the names of the other files in the directory? And it has rendered her program to say, hi, this file index.php, level 8.php, and temp, your name contains 39 characters. So that is just all the files in the directory. If this doesn't make sense to you, that is 100% okay. How this works is there's always ways you can get code to execute. When I first did these, I didn't know these either, and I really only know this syntax for executing these types of commands. So the lesson here is to show you how if you think holding a password unsecurely in a text file, or if you think storing the password file on the client side is a good idea, it is not. That's really the lesson I'm trying to show you, because the whole thing is the client and the server are making a connection over HTTP, and you want to make sure that that secure stuff is happening server side, and storing something as a file that is accessible client side is not something you want to be doing. Oops. Keep closing the tab. I need to make new tabs on this site. Okay, Network Security Sam is going down with the ship. He's determined to keep obscuring the password file, no matter how many times people manage to recover it. This time, the file is saved in var www.hackthisite.org HTML basic mission 9. In the last level, however, in my attempt to limit people using the server-side includes to display the directory listing to level 8 only, yeah, exactly. This is why you sanitize inputs. In my last level, however, in my attempt to limit people to using server-side includes to display the directory listed to level 8 only, I have mistakenly screwed up somewhere. There is a way to get the obscured level 9 password. See if you can figure it out. This level seems a lot trickier than it actually is, and it helps to have an understanding of how the script validates user input. The script finds the first occurrence of however you pronounce that, and looks to see what follows directly after it. Using a Caesar cipher would be as simple as, right. That is correct, Jared. Can I, sir, was I being asked to do something one more time? Do you guys want me to do level 8 again? Yeah, okay. I definitely can do level 8 again. So basically, so what we're doing is Sam's younger daughter has created a file the PHP file, it's a simple program that takes a string and tells me how many characters it's in. So in this case, Rebecca has 7 characters. Now, what we're able to do by using this command is by feeding in this string to PHP, rather than giving it a string literal that says Rebecca, what it's saying is get your string literal from all of the files in the same directory as you. So the index.php file is in the same directory as where this obscurely named file is that we're trying to get. And things in the same file, in the same folder as other things, almost always have read permission because they need to be aware of what's around them, especially as PHP tends to read other PHP files, as you guys are most likely familiar. So what it's saying is, take as your string the name, the collective name of all of the file names that are in this directory. So I hit submit, then I click here to download my file name, and it is treating all of the names in the file as, all the names in the folder as a string literal. And so we see we've got 2 things here, and then it's resuming the program as containing 24 characters. So all I have to do is grab this PHP file and use that to get the password that I'm looking for. So that was actually the level 9 string. I should be using the level 8 one. So again, this is the string that we need. So we're going to take the password we're looking for, which is this, and then we are going to go up into the directory and follow here. And here is our password. Rebecca, does that make sense to you now? Cool. Okay, I got a question asking what the syntax is. It is SSI. It is a dynamic HTML executed by a server rather than a browser. So extension of PHP. It's not something I've ever encountered in the wild other than a handful of times. It's typically speaking, commands you learn in environments like this where things are insecure don't end up getting reused in the real world because we have much more secure ways of doing things. How often is it that a PHP server would actually have access to a shell's ls command, though? I would have assumed that it had a different, more secure way of accessing the file system. It does, but you are accessing the, actually, I'm going to make sure everyone sees that question. So the question is, how often does a PHP server, which is essentially Apache running on the server computer to render PHP and send it back to the client, how often does it have access to the file system? And the answer is fairly often, because you need, PHP doesn't run in a vacuum. It's got other files. It runs based on tons of config files that are in the server for Apache. So it's always kind of there. Now, if you are able to trick PHP into using its access privilege to give you the information you're looking for, that's the key piece of understanding, because the file names are not accessible to us remotely. But when PHP runs or is executing scripts, it's likely doing it with admin privilege because it's managing the server, it is rendering the server, it is working off of files that are deep in the system's core. So you are accessing it from PHP's perspective. So it is often open. If you'd like to learn more about that, I recommend you trying to configure PHP on a Mac or Linux without using XAMPP, and you'll see how intertwined it is. Okay, so number 9. Network security Sam is going down with the ship. He's determined to keep obscuring the password file no matter how many times he'll manage to recover it. This time it's saved in this directory. And the last level, however, in my attempt to limit people to using the server side includes, which is SSI, to display the directory listing to level 8 only. I have mistakenly screwed up somewhere. There is a way to get the obscured level 9 password. See if you can figure it out. Okay, so remembering the level 8 command being this. Oops. We have to go back to level 8 to do this, apparently. Forgot about that. So we can get the password to level 9 through the level 8 prompt. And the command we used in sure, if you want. What it'll likely tell you. Yeah, I'll try that. So someone is suggesting we use this as the password, as the program injection. So Jared's saying, run this command, ls in the directory, and then pipe the output into mail. Does everyone understand the Unix command basically going forward here? So this means pipe, which means the output of the command for ls is redirected as the input for the following command. Does that make sense to everyone? Is there anyone who doesn't understand that? Okay, so Jared's asking what would happen if I do this. They have already programmed this. If you were trying to use server size include to solve this challenge, you're on the right track, but I've limited the commands allowed to the relevant ones finding the password file for security reasons, because there will always be that one person who decides to execute some rather nasty commands. Okay, so looking with the command again from level 8, we see this. Now remember, the command, the obscured password file we're looking for is now in the level 9 directory, and our current directory is level 8. Does anyone have any ideas how we could access the level 9 directory using this file structure? Right. So, but there isn't. So someone's suggesting I do this, is that correct? How important is it for us to know and use these commands? These commands specifically, not important. I'm trying to show you how websites work so that you know better security practices. So you do not need to memorize these commands. Okay. And we were able to get the level 9 password by just adding what Shannon and Jared suggested as .. /9. Okay, and then take the password, go back to level 9. Ding. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so how are we feeling now about passwords and how data is shared on a network? Does anyone feel like I've changed their ideas about where you can hide a password and what should be done? Anyone? Does anyone feel like all right, cool. So now we can start doing a couple more advanced ones. I'm going to leave this one up to you, though. So if you want to try this one on your own, you see that one there. That's why we don't use these for everything, but we are going to be saving our friend's band. Okay. Hey man, I need a big favor from you. Remember that website I showed you once before, Uncle Arnold's band review page? Well, a long time ago, I made a $500 bet with a friend that my band would be at the top of the list by the end of the year. Well, as you already know, 2 of my band members have died in a horrendous car accident, but still insist on the bet being on. I know you're good with computers and stuff, so I was wondering if there's any way you can help hack the website to make my band at the top of the list. So from this page, you can make votes. So what we can do is vote for killing Mr. Ape, flag of nothing, 3 spins, and you can vote up to 5 times. Does anyone? Yeah, I know. That's why I don't like using this this website in labs, because they they have really good content in terms of the hacking ability, but I find the language and styles inappropriate to give as assignments. Okay, so does anyone have any ideas how we can vote in this Raging Inferno? Okay, so Patrick's saying remove the limit on votes. How would I do that? Okay, so I'm going to inspect the element. Okay, so I've got only option value 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What can I do? Can you change it so that every vote goes to 1? Change the value. All right, what would I change the value to? Okay, so let's say instead of 5, we just do probably enough votes. So now when I go to vote 5, that vote has been conquered. So we have defeated the challenge. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. So what you can do for today's participation mark is go create an account on Hack This Site and just do some missions and see how you feel for it. Again, I apologize in advance that sometimes the content is inappropriate, and if at any point it makes you uncomfortable, just go on to something else or a different mission. I really wish that they posted their missions on GitHub so that we could edit them and make them much more accommodating. So we'll do that. So I'll give everyone maybe a 5-minute break to go and create an account. And then I can go back and I can show anyone how to do specific levels because I'm getting some questions in the chat now. Yeah, I can do level 7 again, but I'm going to do a 5-minute break so everyone can create their accounts. So just starts, like, I'm just going to mute myself, but start spamming the chat when you've created your account so I can sort of tell who's where. Okay, so while you guys were doing that, I created a submission folder on Brightspace. Uh, Basically, I don't need anything too fancy. Don't even need a write up. Um, I'll just tell the TAs to look for a screenshot of any kind that either to of your account profile or of a mission being completed or something like that. Just show us that you interacted with the site in some meaningful way. Okay, so why do I have email already? I shouldn't be looking at that while I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, again, I'm sorry about the subject matter. Participation points, I put a suggested date of next class, but my policy is end of term for everything. Okay, cool. So are there any you want me to do again? I'll start with number 7. Okay, so so in Unix, what you can do is type in calendar commands or any command, like as you guys know, any commands. But one of them specifically is the cal command. So how this person's site, how they created their program was they have the cal command all ready to go. And then what's taken next is input from the user. So what the person who created it is expecting is you to type in some year and you get the calendar. But what you can do is run multiple commands simultaneously by using the semicolon and then running another command in the same line. So for example, ls, which gives us the directory, and then -l, which gives us the long form with permissions and that kind of thing. So now, in the same command, I'm able to get the calendar for the year 2020 and a list of all the files and folders in my current directory. So using the same strategy, over here, I just type in the year I want, semicolon to start a new command, ls-l, then we get the new command and the list of programs in the list of files in the directory, including the one containing the password file. To people asking about participation points, I'm way more relaxed about them than you guys are worrying about. Any screenshot of you on Hack This Site is fine with me, because as I will always repeat, because it always makes me nervous using the site, there is subject matter that is inappropriate. So I don't want you clicking around and doing anything that makes you uncomfortable. So just show me that you've gone and learned something from today's lecture. Does that make sense to everyone? You just one screenshot, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, anyone else want me to see do any other ones? When I say inappropriate, how careful do we need to be? There's no nudity or anything like that. It's just like, in some cases, it's just like, I think one of the missions is like a Nazi website you're supposed to take down or that kind of thing. And that's just not something that is something that I want to have in the classroom. But if you go and do that mission as your own choice, that's your choice. Anyone else having other questions? Hi, is your lab, no, you can submit the participation anytime up until December 9th at 11:59 p.m. Atlantic time. You guys can do the course at your own schedule. Cool. How do you find the file name in level 2? Level 2, you should be testing to see if everything works. I think level 2, you just click the submit button. I think that's that one. Any other questions? Cool. So I can start talking about something new in just a moment. Let me pull up the slide deck. Hovering. And lectures. Physical security. So do you guys want a few minutes to play with Hack This Site, or do you want me to start the next set of lecture slides? It's up to you guys. A few minutes, okay. Jesse, I've had that problem too. If you're using your Dal email to register, the confirmation email will get sent to the junk file. Microsoft doesn't like Hack This Site. It's something I've noticed. So last semester, I had people do the realistic missions, and we vetted the ones that we thought might be inappropriate. So if you guys are interested in trying this stuff out on your own time, Alex will likely show you how to do these later in a lab, but you can try 4, 5, 6, 9, 11, 14, and 15. I'll put that in the chat. Kevin, if I wasn't the instructor of this course and responsible for it, I'd kind of agree with you. So, yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys are having fun with it. Would you guys like me to save my next lecture slides till next day, and I can just hang out and you guys can start like playing with this tool for the rest of the class? I just don't want anyone hanging around waiting for me to keep talking if I'm. I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Okay, so I will save my lecture slides. I'll stick around here until what in your time zone would be 4 and my time zone is 3. And if anyone feels like hopping off, feel free. Just send me a screenshot or something showing that you did it. Okay, the chat has exploded. What do you do now that class is over? You are welcome to hang out with me for half an hour to ask me questions, or you can go and do whatever it is you want to do with your day. And once again, to clarify, a screenshot of literally anything of you on Hack This Site, just show me that you interacted with it in some way. The TAs are just going to look for basically the UI of the site. They're not going to be looking too closely. Okay, and now I'm being asked to redo. You guys want me to redo level 8? No confirmation email. Just do there's a submission folder on Brightspace. That's where all participation goes. It won't be me that marks them. It'll be one of the TAs, so we can't. They can't access my inbox for obvious reasons. If it's a confirmation email for Hack This Site, it'll be in the junk email if you use your Dell folder. And did someone want me to redo mission 8? Because I'll just send you the link because I stopped sharing my screen. Okay. So the solutions to these have long been posted. There's hundreds of YouTube channels out there, people going through and doing them all, the realistic ones especially. How do I know it's Caesar in level 6? Because it says somewhere in one of the solutions I looked at. Might have been Alex that told me that actually. But yeah, I won't make any attempt to hide the solutions because almost every hacker that I know has gone through this at some point or another, and I know at least 2 different people who've made YouTube channels of themselves going through the missions and doing them. Oh, you've already submitted a screenshot of the confirmation email. Yeah, that's fine. Realistic in the real world means that collaboration exists and is more effective, and that is the reason there are no exams in this course. That's correct, Jared. Do you implement server-side rendering of passwords in Node and Express? Where I would suggest putting passwords is in your database. They are encrypted in such a way that they can only be decrypted once a session has been authenticated, and the database should not be accessible directly to the client. The database should be only connected to the server, and it is through the server that the client accesses anything in the database. Are we going to be learning any new Node Express material? Depends on what you mean by new. I don't know what you already know. Node and Express will be covered this term, particularly by Samita and Sam, because they have actual industry experience with it. Are you hungry? I'll feed you after class. There is a cat. She is cranky. What? Get off the keyboard. I love you. Here, say hi to the whole class. Anyone else have any other questions? There is no midterm or final exam in this course. I thought that was clear. I don't do those. In the real world, you don't have them. Instead, I just expect the quality of like, anytime you're like, hey, this lab's taking too long or this project's taking too long, remember that any time that you would have been studying for a test or exam is now time I want you to spend working on a lab, like hands-on. Does this course have a more advanced version that we can take later? It depends on what component of the course you're most interested in, because this course, the way I run it, has sort of three components in terms of human-computer interaction, networks, and cybersecurity. Sorry, human-computer interaction, web dev, and cybersecurity. If you're interested in HCI, there's a fourth-year HCI course that's mandatory for BACs, and there's also persuasive technology and a few others like that. Web development, Gabriela Mascara runs 4177 Advanced Web Services. It's mostly about APIs. And then if you're interested in cybersecurity, you could take either Srini's cybersecurity course, or you could take NER's network design management. And there's also Dr. Hockey's usable security and privacy, which is sort of like a mix of cybersecurity and UI. If you're wanting to do more pen testing, you definitely want to take NER's graduate level course. She doesn't have an undergraduate course code, but she will let undergrads into the course. Can I explain HCI? Human-computer interaction is basically the bridge of computer science to every arts discipline. So we look at things like psychology and sociology, and things like that to develop how computers work. So that's where we get things like, how does the brain actually interact with technology? How do we design things that work for the brain, that don't work with the brain? Let's try to think of some examples. So we get things like Nielsen's heuristics, which are ways we can evaluate if a user interface is going to work for the brain. So things like visibility of system status and our ability to save and make sure that we can resume work later, things like that. It's basically anytime you're using UI or you're using any form of social sciences to further the development of your app, that's what HCI. Cloud computing is going to be more about how to manage a server. So for example, what I'm teaching you guys how to do is build on Apache. So Apache is the most common web server software, and that's what runs PHP. And from your guys' perspective with PHP, you really only have to worry about each instance of the program being run as a client, and you don't think about the fact that the server is running with thousands of people having HTTP instances over PHP. And the cloud computing course will be more like, how do you develop an application that would run on a server that could make sure that the needs of all of the many clients connected at once are satisfied. But yeah, if you want to know what course to take next, ask me at the end of the term based on the things you liked the most. And I've taken every course at Dell that has either the word security or the word networks in it. So I can tell you with pretty good certainty which ones are which. That was actually one of the reasons I decided to do my PhD elsewhere, was I ran out of interesting courses to take. Also, what were the best courses for microservices and API? Definitely Advanced Web Services. 4177, I think, is the course code. Last question, are we going to be doing any front-end web scraping in this course? We absolutely are. I have to teach you how to make a crawler. So the assignment I give you for that is, if you ever been, when you go on Dell Online, look for the transfer credit equivalencies table. You'll see that there's like, you can pick the name of like the province or state a university is located in, the subject, and then the courses available in that subject at each university. And it ends up being like thousands and thousands of tables. And I get you to write a script that scrapes the data from every table and makes it indexable into one massive table.